The strongest argument for us being in a simulation, probably being in a simulation, I think is the following. We're clearly on a trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such computers or set-top boxes. It would seem to follow that the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
Good evening and welcome to another presentation from the RHI. I'm Dr. Thomas, and today we will be opening a file from our Science and Technology Division M2R435, which investigates the evidence that our world, our universe, in fact everything that we know, is not real, and asks the question, are we living in a simulation? Now, the idea that our reality is not real, it's not a new one. Long before the Institute was ever founded, as far back as the 17th century, philosophers such as Descartes have pondered the possibility of a simulated world. But it has been in the 20th and the 21st centuries, with the advent of powerful computing and quantum theory, where the idea of a simulated reality has really taken root. From remembering seeing TV footage of Nelson Mandela's death in 1980, to arguing whether the Monopoly Man has a monocle or not, all the way to asking whether or not Pikachu has a black-tipped tail, more and more people are experiencing what can only be described as glitches. Known as the Mandela effect, is this the evidence of the simulation rewriting itself? Making changes that only some people can remember or even become aware of? It is estimated that 1 in 5 planets in our galaxy alone may be able to support life, and there are almost 100 to 200 billion galaxies in our observable universe. So, where are all the aliens? While many people believe that we have already made contact, the Institute of course has files pertaining to this subject and will definitely be the subject of many of our future videos, we have still failed to find 100% proof of extraterrestrial life, leading many to believe that if we haven't found the evidence yet, it's because it doesn't exist. Perhaps our future selves are running a simulation on their early history, or playing the ultimate virtual reality game, and aliens are just not needed, or part of this game. That would certainly explain why we haven't heard from ET just yet. And then, of course, there is the infamous double slit experiment, where electrons actually act differently depending on whether they are being observed or not. Now, while this experiment alone should be the focus of a member's presentation, many people at the Institute firmly believe that this is the simulation conserving resources and computing power and only rendering the things that it needs to. In other words, only what we are observing. Now, while all the previous evidence is fascinating to the Institute's members, it is the mathematics of the universe that they find most compelling. Our entire existence is built upon the 4 fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. Now, while we don't have time to go into each of these individually, if any of these forces were stronger, weaker, or behaved in any other way, the very fabric of the universe would be different. Gravity, for example, affects not just the motion of galaxies, stars, planets, it affects light. And the strong nuclear forces ensures that our atoms stay together and form the very matter that we're made of. And then there are the magic numbers, 3, 6, and 9. What some have discredited as pseudo-mathematics or playing with calculators could actually provide the evidence of living inside a simulation. So let's take a look at this so-called sacred geometry. Let's start by looking at the passage of time. There are, of course, 24 hours in a day, and then let's break that down into minutes and seconds and it gives us these numbers. Let's look at measuring distance. If we take the imperial form of measurement, a single foot is 12 inches, and then we can multiply this up into the following numbers. In navigation, we use degrees, minutes, and seconds, just like this. Now let's take a closer look at those numbers. Let's take 1440. 1 plus 4 plus 4, it equals 9. Let's have a look at 8640. 8 plus 6 plus 4 equals 9. Let's have a look at another one. Let's take 1728, which is 1 plus 7 plus 2 plus 8. Now, that equals 18, but then we take 1 plus 8, and that of course equals 9. Now, the explanation of these magic numbers appearing in nature deserves its own presentation, but today we are here to show that it provides evidence of being inside the simulation. So let's have a look at those numbers in a little bit more detail and paying particular attention to the 1 plus 8 or the 108, and let's apply them to the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. Now, the Earth has 3 great motions that it completes. It spins on its axis, which takes 24 hours. It moves around the Sun, which takes 365 days. Now, it is worth noting here that obviously, whilst 365 does not equal 9, many cultures from our past have not only celebrated a 360-day year, but some even believe that our year used to be a 360-day, but some cataclysm, some catastrophe, actually knocked us off our orbit slightly, which has led to the year being extended. Now, the Earth also has a third motion, what we call precession, and this is the spinning of the Earth just on a slight angle, which actually takes 25,920 years to complete, what is often referred to as the Great Year, with 1 degree of this movement being marked by 72 years. And there are those numbers again, built into the very position and movement of the Earth itself. But now we come to the most compelling evidence: the Sun and the Moon. In miles, the radius of the Moon is 1,080. The diameter of the Moon is 2,160. The radius of the Sun is 432,000 miles, and its diameter is 864,000 miles. You'll notice that each of those figures adds up to 9. And then we'll take the diameter of the Sun and we'll times it by that 108. And that gives us 93.3 million miles, which just so happens to be the distance between the Sun and the Earth. And the same thing happens when we take the diameter of the Moon and we multiply that by 108. We get the distance from the Moon to the Earth. This, along with the fact that the distance between the Earth, the Moon and the Sun actually represents what we call the golden ratio, is the reason why, when we have a solar eclipse, for example, we see that perfect sun disk appear behind the Moon. Now, these numbers, the mathematics, they don't lie. So are we to believe that through the chaos of the universe that this is all just a coincidence? The Institute certainly does not think so. In fact, ancient civilizations had this knowledge. Lost civilizations built it into the monuments that still stand today, presumably to teach future generations of this world the very secrets of the universe that they were living in. The only difference between these past civilizations and us is that we have computers. We know what is possible in the form of computer-generated graphics and simulations. In fact, many of us already play games so realistic that if the characters inside them could think and talk, they would most likely be asking the same thing as us. Is our reality real? The Institute's position on this is very clear, and it may be surprising to you, our members. But it is our belief that our reality is not the base reality. We are, indeed, living inside a simulation. But does that give us cause for alarm? Does that mean that our lives simply have no meaning to them? Of course not. The world is what you make it, simulation or not. We all live here, and we all have to work within the same rules, the same laws as everybody else. The simulation appears to be so detailed that almost 8 billion of us can think and act independently, so let's just continue on as we have been, until either we can manipulate the simulation, or the creators of this world decide to end it. And even then, they may only just reset it, which they have done many, many times before. But that's a presentation for another day. Until then, this has been a video from the Real History Institute. If you've enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe, as it is the best way to support the Institute's ongoing research projects. The Institute thanks its members for its time and wishes them a very pleasant evening.